On November 2nd, 2018, Gregory Ramos, a teenager from DeBerry, Florida, called police to report his mother, Gail Clevenger, missing. According to the actual 911 call, Gregory told authorities he came home from school and discovered his house was ransacked. He sounded noticeably nervous as he explained key details that he believed something may have happened to his mother. Volusia County Police Department dispatched units to the address so they can investigate what possibly happened.
I just got home and my house is completely trashed. It looks like someone broke in the side door.
The initial call report alerted homicide detectives as a missing person was a point of interest. Body cam footage showed Gregory telling deputies that he believed a robbery took place inside the home. Clearly distraught, Gregory Ramos detailed several things that he believed to be unusual when he came home. He was adamant his mother Gail Clevenger's disappearance was not a good sign, along with the way the house looked inside. He then told deputies that Gail's van was in the driveway running, but there was no sign of her being there. He noticed every room in the house had things thrown around, as well as some items were missing from the home. A side door to the house was visibly forced open, and deputies found a single blood droplet just inside the doorway. During a walkthrough with police, Gregory himself showed detectives clues inside the home. Room by room, the teenager detailed specific things missing, including a TV, his PlayStation 4, and several computers.
I had a radio here, and I had an extension cord from an alarm clock, and then I had my $1,000 computer here.
After a 2-day search for Gail, investigators went to Clevenger's workplace. Rose and Brito Architects, where co-workers said that she didn't report to work that morning. One of her co-workers also told detectives she called Gail to check on her, but her phone was going straight to voicemail. Gail's family said Gregory's stepfather, Daniel Clevenger, was out of town and that Gregory was the last person to see or hear from her. Daniel Clevenger was questioned, and detectives determined that he indeed was out of town on business. He also told authorities that him and his wife had talked the night before about Gregory's grades and that he should be grounded. Gregory told deputies he had left for school around 6:30 that morning, and he arrived at home after he got off the school bus around 3:45 that afternoon. With noticeable scratches under his eye and around his nose, detectives then asked Gregory how was he injured. According to the affidavit, Ramos told detectives he was injured in a fight with his friend Dylan. receiving statements from Gail's husband, Daniel Clevenger, authorities learned Gregory told his stepfather he fell down a flight of stairs. Now, by telling different versions of what happened to his face, detectives questioned him more while they contacted school officials. Investigators then learned that Gregory, in fact, did not take the school bus home because he checked himself out of school around 1 p.m. With this misinformation, detectives wanted to know what happened the night before Ramos went to school November 2nd. Originally, Gregory said he was grounded for bad grades, then went straight to bed afterwards. Now, changing his story, Gregory told detectives after he was grounded, he snuck into his parents' room for his cell phone to call his friends. Later that night, while his mother was sleeping, they stole his mom's van and some money, then went for a ride around Deltona. He said that him and his friends hung out at the fire pit at the River City Church about a mile away from his house. A few hours later, he came home right before his mother woke him up for school, got dressed, and left the house. After checking himself out of school early, he never rode the bus home, but went back to the River City fire pit to meet up with his friends. Once he returned home, that's when he noticed his mother's van was running unoccupied. During the interview, one of the friends that he referred to as Dylan was a teenager named Dylan Kaglerick. When detectives spoke to Kaglerick, he downplayed even knowing Gregory Ramos. He told detectives Gregory was nothing more than his math tutor. While speaking to students that knew the boys, one student told detectives they were best friends. Kaglerick initially said he last seen Gregory at lunch in school. After denying seeing Gregory after school, he said he left for work with his friend Brian Porras from nearby Stanford that afternoon. When confronted with inconsistencies in his statement, Kaglerick admitted to leaving school with Gregory and Brian Porras. Dylan Kaglerick eventually told detectives he hadn't been completely honest and that the home wasn't burglarized. Gregory was questioned again by detectives, and when confronted with a statement made by Dylan Kaglerick, he admitted to the unthinkable. A confession of killing his own mother. Officials described the confession as calculated and cold. Gregory told detectives he strangled his mother over an argument about his grades. He implied it took him approximately 30 minutes to kill her, and detectives said Gregory showed little remorse in his confession. detective described Gregory as one of the top 3 sociopaths that he's ever encountered. A direct quote was, "He was a soulless individual who thought he was the smartest person in the room." He also stated he deserved an award for the way he acted during the 911 call and when deputies arrived. After a call from one of his teachers to his mother about a deed he had in one of his classes, Gregory told detectives he believed his mom would kill him. While speaking with his friends and family members, there were no signs of any abuse between the mother and son. They both shared a passion for martial arts where they attended training classes. A statement from one sheriff said the whole scenario just wasn't adding up. The crime scene, interviewing the kid, things were missing from the beginning. Police said in the early hours of November 2nd, Gregory went into his mother's room around 12 a.m., woke her up, and killed her. While speaking with Dylan Catherick and Brian Porras, police were informed of what Gail Cleavenger's body was. The River City church pit that the young teenagers often hung out at was a shallow grave where detectives discovered Gail Cleavenger. Authorities say Gregory Ramos contacted his friends Dylan Catherick and Brian Porras, both 17, to assist him with burying his mother's body and staging the robbery scene. All 3 boys were students at University High School. Both Catherick and Porras have both been charged with accessory to murder after the fact. Gregory and Catherick both led deputies to items that were stolen from the home. Those items included a PlayStation 4, a rifle, and other electronics. A gun case, 4 laptops, and more stolen items were recovered in a dumpster behind the River City Church, a Winn-Dixie in Deltona, as well as in Catherick's home he shares with his grandmother. A shovel and a broom was also found near the crime scene. One sheriff reported that this was one of the most disturbing and saddest cases he's seen in his career. Prior to his arrest, Gregory Ramos told detectives he was a Boy Scout and also a member of the Orange County Police Explorers, which is a program for children interested in law enforcement careers. Ramos told investigators he wanted to be a homicide detective when he grew up. He also attended Volusia County Fair and a youth show hours before he killed his mother. Gail Cleavenger was an architect who worked for several firms across Central Florida. She studied architecture at the University of Miami, graduating in 1995. Gregory Ramos eventually told detectives Gail was still alive on the bedroom floor and he was struggling to kill her. Afterwards, he put her body in a wheelbarrow that was later found, loaded her in the van, and took her body to the River City Church fire pit where him and his two friends buried her. A neighbor that lived nearby to Ramos said that he seen and talked to the three boys on several occasions. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary with the teenagers. They all were normal and nothing seemed suspicious about them. Gregory apologized for lying to detectives and said he didn't want to get anyone in more trouble. Dylan Kagliaric initially denied knowledge of what happened, but eventually began telling authorities bits and pieces of the truth court records stated. The team told investigators he had given Ramos a ride from school that afternoon, and on the way to his house, Ramos began acting weird and nervous. When asked to go inside, he advised that it looked like a hurricane blew through the house. Ramos began asking the friends to help him get rid of some property, and at that point, he admitted to killing his mother. Brian Porras, when questioned, asked detectives what do they know, and once confronted with the confession and evidence, he told them that he would tell the truth. Brian Porras, along with Dylan Kagliaric, faced charges of murder, accessory after the fact for helping Ramos cover up the crime. Both were charged as adults. New update. Dylan Kagliaric has since been released on probation after pleading guilty to second-degree accessory to the murder after the fact. Kagliaric served 828 days in the Volusia County Jail, which is the amount of time required for the charge. So his time was served. 10 years probation was also required for the plea bargain upon his release. Dylan Kagliaric is now free. Brian Porras is still awaiting sentencing after agreeing to the new plea deal. Both were originally facing up to 30 years in prison. Gregory Ramos, 15 at the time, pled guilty of first-degree murder, abuse of a dead body, and tampering with evidence. Now 17, Ramos could have faced life in prison, but because he made a guilty plea deal in December 2021, he was sentenced to 45 years in prison January 22nd, 2022. Given credit for the 2 years served, all other charges would run concurrent with the 45-year sentence. After 25 years, the sentence will be set to be reviewed as he will be eligible for parole. If paroled, Ramos will be on probation for the rest of his life. Now remorseful, in court, Gregory said that he apologized to his family and he wasn't trying to make any excuses for himself. In a remarkable moment, during the hearing, Ramos was allowed to speak with his grandmother for the first time since he's been charged with the crime. She told him she prays for him and she always will be there for him. It's sad to say, but their family basically lost 2 family members. It's really an unfortunate situation, but Gregory Ramos may eventually be paroled from prison when he's 40 years old. We all have thoughts and opinions about cases like this, but the families are definitely the victims here. Please hit the like and subscribe, as well as the notification bell for more videos. Stay tuned for more crime reports.